we are honored to introduce our 3 guest speakers to discuss the theme of how is social media changing the advocacy landscape and what power dynamics is it creating? Mislav Barišić comes from Croatia. He is a Europe policy and research specialist. Mislav is a law graduate. From 2019 to 2021, he held the position of World Youth Alliance Europe Director of Advocacy in Brussels, where he worked on opening new chapters and communicating with European institutions. Nisreen Deeb comes from Lebanon. She is an IT consultant, social entrepreneur, and executive director for LLWB, an NGO that aims to support women in business and women entrepreneurs. Nisreen founded Girls Got IT Initiative, the Arab Women in Computing Lebanon chapter, and Usultech to empower the youth and the women in STEAM. Matteo Sisto comes from Italy. He is the founder and the president of Europiamo, the meeting point for youth and NGOs in the Erasmus Plus youth program, working on promoting youth participation, advocacy, and decision-making in civil society. Matteo is also the director of Impact Pro, a consultancy agency aiming at amplifying the impact of NGOs across Europe. And here's the host of the WOMENTUM Digital Saloon, Katie Gallus. She comes from Germany. Katie is a journalist and a storyteller with a massive crush on all things digital. Katie had worked for German public broadcasters Deutsche Welle, SWR, ARD, and ZDF.
Welcome everybody to the Digital Saloon of WOMENTUM in its 5th edition. It's great to have you everybody on board, as we are always trying to debate contemporary topics regarding women, regarding IT, regarding culture and digitalization. And of course, we always have high-scale guests. The Momentum series of the LEAD initiative aims to introduce our partner organizations and give us, of course, important conversations which need to be discussed with enough time and enough space. My name is Katie Gallus. I'm very excited to be part of the Digital Saloon series, and we want to hear more about the challenges of our speakers' activism. We'd like to understand more what keeps them going on, of course, and of course to help them for better understanding of these challenges, as well how to foster the dialogue that can lead to the recommendations and pave the way forward to legislative reforms. We have thrilling questions today. Our questions today are among how is social media changing the advocacy landscape and what power dynamics is it creating? With us today is Mislav Barišić. He's based in Zagreb, Croatia. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we have Matteo Sisto with us from Europiamo, and we have Nisreen Deeb with us. She's an IT scientist and entrepreneur from Lebanon. And we have with us Imane Lakbachi and Sara Dirani. Thank you very much for being with us today, and please watch with us the spoiler.
Social media have increasingly been recognized as an important and effective tool for advocacy. A growing body of research examines the use of social media in grassroots and social movements, as well as issues related to civic engagement, social capital, and voter turnout. The extent to which organized interest groups have adopted social media as an advocacy tool, however, has been relatively ignored. Through advocacy activities, nonprofit organizations contribute to democratic governance by representing the interests of citizens and promoting changes in public policy. The advocacy function is crucial, not only to organizations that engage primarily in external representational activities, but also service providers and other charitable organizations. Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and other social media outlets have introduced new convening platforms for organizations to facilitate relationship building and stakeholder engagement. Social media are claimed to help organizations engage present and potential stakeholders by sharing, cooperating, and mobilizing joint actions in near real time. This is why, in the 5th edition of the WOMENTUM Digital Saloon, we are giving the floor to our high-level guests and partners to tell their stories and to understand together the different aspects of how is social media changing the advocacy landscape and what power dynamics is it creating.
Thank you very much for being with us today. I'd like to dive in now into our topic of social media at policymaking process. Nisreen, maybe you can give us a little glimpse of your work and how you work with social media and the connection between policymaking processes and, of course, advocacy work.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today with all of these amazing speakers and Katie and the Digital Saloon. So basically, I'm coming from Lebanon, as you have said, Katie. And Lebanon, in the recent 2 years, it was passed through a lot of challenging period, from the financial crisis, from the demonstrations on the streets, and from all the corruption that happened in the country. So I'm going to talk from this perspective about how the social media helped. Basically, the social media got the world closer together. So we can know the news very quickly from all over the world. And especially in this small country, Lebanon, the social media helped a lot when it comes to publicizing about what's happening in the country, about how we should all stand beside each other, about how the advocacy, how it can help in the policy reform, in which sense. For example, if something is happening in a special area in Lebanon and all the social media are talking about this topic or are talking about this problem or this issue, and you are gathering everyone with us to stand beside each other, to support each other, then all of a sudden you see the people on the streets, they are protesting, they are demonstrating, they are asking for their rights. And that's why, all because it was announced on a special platform and people started resharing, reposting, talking about it all over social media, using the same hashtag. So this is basically how it was developing. And if I go to another level, for example, we noticed in Lebanon that we need to support the local businesses, especially in the financial crisis. So how we knew about a local business in Lebanon, if I'm going to talk about entrepreneurs, about the SMEs and the enterprises in Lebanon, we knew it from the social media. We didn't know that woman in this village, she does those products and we should support her by buying from her products, for example. We didn't know that this specific store is selling this unique thing and we need to support them. More to talk about the Lebanese diaspora. It's very known that the Lebanese people are everywhere, all around the world. They are operating companies, they are working all over the world. And especially in the last 2 years, I'm giving those facts because I want to start my intervention through facts, not through just talking in general. So what happened in the recent period in Lebanon, we needed to support the businesses from the Lebanese diaspora. We needed the people, the Lebanese industry was more consumer, not producers, was very relying on importing goods more than exporting goods. And in the last 2 years, with the support of the Lebanese diaspora through the social media and through the e-commerce and through the Instagram, through the Facebook, they know now about the local businesses in Lebanon. And with the support of these businesses, they could export their products to all over the world. So in general, what we can tell now, you can just announce about a new business. You can shed the light about an issue. You can highlight a challenge. You can ask people to stand by your side, to ask for your rights through social media. This is what we care about. This is the positive insights from the social media. I work as a social entrepreneur since 2013. I work recently in the last 2 years as leading an organization, an NGO, non-governmental organization. What we do as social entrepreneur or activist or an NGO, we do work on the people first. Yes, we run projects, we run activities, we empower women in IT, we empower women on boards, we empower women in all sectors, but how? We work first on the people's mindset and how can we reach more people? How we can advocate about the work we do. Personally, on individual level, I'm going to talk on two perspectives. On individual level, how the people knew about what I'm doing. Because I was active on social media. I was announcing any project, any initiative on Facebook and Instagram. I was using the hashtags. I was using the mention. I was announcing everywhere on all the platforms, on Twitter, what I'm doing. And now people can see your work through the social media. While if I'm in a very small country in the Middle East, how, for example, the people in the US, the people in Canada will notice what Nisreen Deeb as individual is doing in this very small country using social media. On organization level at LLWB, what we do, we are very proud in announcing the work we do on social media. In every activity, in every project, we announce it very well on social media. And this is, by the way, it's an effort on its own. For example, our marketing coordinator, she works around the clock 24 hours in choosing the right content. And this is something very critical when you want to announce something on social media, especially on organization level. You should meet the standard, the ethics. You should meet some content standard when you want to announce any project. You should take care when you want to mention any donor, any partner, what to tackle, what is the message that you want to deliver out of an activity or in a project, which hashtags you want to use. This is first. On a second level, for example, now we're still in the International Women's Month. It's almost the last 2 days of the March, which is noticed at the International Women's Month. We've done at LLWB a campaign all over the month, planning it, choosing the right people in this campaign. We chose every week a topic. Why we're doing this? People can ask, what is the purpose of doing a campaign? We chose 4 themes over 4 weeks during March. And in every week, we announce a quote and a picture from a role model, women in IT, women entrepreneurs, women on board, and women-led businesses. This is what we have done. Why? Because people from a very rural area, from the vulnerable communities, need to see that there are women, role models who were able to achieve something, impactful work. How we can announce this? We run it on all our platforms to inspire the others to make an impact. So basically, it's your choice which impact you want to do using the social media. Not to forget that there is here a very thin line when you can just fall by not respecting the ethics or by just delivering the wrong message in a way. It's a very critical issue because unfortunately nowadays there is pros and cons for the social media. So that's it basically.
Coming into that in a second, thank you very much, Nisreen. Very interested, of course, and indeed debating about this very thin line that you mentioned. And Matteo, I'd like to come in with you now. So where do you see, and of course, where do you see the connection between social media and policy-making processes? And of course, what impact does social media has when it comes to, in the end, policy-making processes?
Hello everyone. Thank you very much, Katie. That's very interesting topic, and I'm very, very happy to be here among such outstanding speakers. I'm not outstanding myself, actually. I'm a very simple person. I'm not an expert on both these topics, but my organization, Europiamo, it's I would say it's quite to the point. What I would like to speak about today is more about a sort of the simple person view. So in my life, we've seen the development of the internet, starting from a very, very simple thing that was used by very few people. And throughout time, it has evolved a lot. And nowadays, we pass through 3 different phases, or this is it, what they're saying about. The first very, very simple internet we had at the beginning of the 90s and through up until 2000-ish, was called Web 1.0. Was a very simple way to find information and read about what was going on. And that was it was very focused on the company's values, not just on the people. Then it came to be what it's called Web 2.0, that is defined as read and write concept, meaning that people could interact between themselves, and that was the birth of social media as we intend them, and social networks. So like the focus was more on the community level. The third change we are experiencing right now, and it's like still at very, very early time, it is something that like I'm very attracted to, because like while these two other concepts or like evolution of the internet were mostly connected with like who had the power, so like the power dynamics were very skewed towards like big companies or like big corporations in general. Like nowadays, like we are experiencing the birth of what is called the Web 3.0, that like it is defined as read, write as the two first before, but like there's also this concept of owning the content and creating new content that like it could be shared and monetized, or at least like the person who has produced that could actually reap benefit out of that. And this is one of the most interesting change that I can see in the landscape right now. You know, like there is a big problem in power dynamics, especially with Web 2.0, that we have experienced also like in the last years. You know, like if somebody decides that you are not part of the conversation, or your conversation should be on social media or where the content is created, that creates a sort of barriers for you. So like we're seeing some cases of I would say censorship, or like in general, like certain arguments are not anymore in the social media. So like it appears that they are not legal anymore. This last part, this Web 3.0, as I said, like it stems from what is called the decentralization and like of the whole internet thing. I would say that in general, this change is not yet connected, or at least like the people have not experienced this change yet, but like we need to really take care of it, because like it's something that would be going on and on like in the next few years. So as I was telling before, like my organization Europiamo, it's connected mostly with young people. We believe that young people are the future, as everybody has said in the last 100 years or whatnot. But like we don't just say words, you know, like I believe that in terms of how young people are in charge in my organization, in the organization I represent today, it's like a little bit different from any other time. And like you asked me also before, what makes me tick, and like why I am an activist, or at least why I'm advocating for young people's rights and for young people's empowerment. In general, is that something I like to say that is a vocation, first of all. So like I don't believe my work as a work. I believe my work is a vocation. It's something that like motivates me every day, and especially something that I consider very personal. You know, like it's I would have loved to have this sort of help when I was younger, and like I couldn't find those information. I was part of different communities, but like I never experienced that sort of push towards young people. And like the beauty thing is that there is a lot of potential young people that we haven't yet put into action. So what we would like to do is mostly try to support young people in finding their own way, developing as human beings, and like being part of the society. And like we do that both through advocacy action and like policy making, as you were mentioning before. And what we do is not just telling them, okay, this is what we should be doing, but it's empowering them to understand what are their needs in these moments in time, and try to find supporters. So like as Nisreen was saying before, like nowadays social media like help you to create a community, to create a support system that can help you into spreading your message and into, you know, like finding inspiration. And like this is one of the most important things, because like sometimes people feel alone. As I was saying before, I felt alone for most of my life. And like through all this new technology that are coming out right now, and like in the past, young people can find support, young people can find their voice. And like can see that, like, you know, maybe a narrative that was like prevalent in the past is not what it should be also in the future. So I think that like one of the two biggest changes we can see that happened in my short life so far are that like the technology has helped people to connect. but has not yet come to a point in which those connections are how to say, have reached the potential level that they can be. You know, like we are still experimenting, we are still trying to see what works and what doesn't work. And
we will go into that in a moment. Sorry to interrupt you here. I just, kind of hooked that for later. Give me a moment, because of course, Mislav from the World Youth Alliance is also here with us. Thank you so much, Matteo, though. Hold on to your keywords and I will come back to you in a moment. Mislav is with us from the Youth Alliance. Great to have you also here on board in the Digital Saloon. So when you were listening to the previous two speakers, and of course to Matteo's words that the youth are the future, and that the young generations, of course, needs to be empowered, what can you tell us about it? Social media and decision-making processes, what did you see? Where do you see the connected and the connection, and of course, the needs for connection in that regard?
Thank you so much, Katie. Good morning, and it's so nice to be with everyone here at the WOMENTUM Digital Saloon. So yes, my name is Mislav, and I come from a different youth NGO. It's called World Youth Alliance, and our work kind of connects with everything the speakers have been saying before, and with your question, Katie, of course. So where do I see this new type of necessity for connection? Well, to me, it seems that social media created a new kind of reality, we can say. 20 or 30 years ago, people were talking about TV ontology, meaning if something wasn't on TV, we weren't sure if it really happened. Well, now it's a completely new world. Now we can say if something is not on social media, we have to question, does it really exist? And this is also true for the work of NGOs and for advocacy initiatives of NGOs, as well as policy making. And so this creates both new kinds of opportunities, but new kinds of challenges as well in the policy making area. If you are working, as I am, for a global NGO that stands for human dignity, protection of human rights, equality between the people, and wants to affirm a culture of life, you need to be present, and you need to have a presence not only among young people who you meet at meetings, who you want to educate at universities and high schools, but also you need to have an online presence. And it's asked of decision makers, policy makers. They always want to know what kind of impact do you have in real life, and in real life impact is also very often measured through likes and reactions and stories, and how many new followers they can attract if they share an interesting story with you. So, of course, this new reality offers an opportunity for democratization. It offers unprecedented ways that NGOs can track and follow what policymakers are doing and kind of try to steer them. But it also requires some kind of skill and knowledge. So now when you have a new initiative, one of the first things you have to think about is not only about the content of your message, as if you were writing an essay and reflecting about a social issue. You need to think about visual identity, about hashtags, about how to organize a message with your allies together, how to communicate it, and how to attract people to it. So all of these challenges are something that NGOs, I believe, all over the world are facing. As soon as you have an event, you have to have some kind of team that will do the whole promotion before the event, during the event, taking photos, making sure hashtags are distributed and shared, making sure interns who maybe do such kind of works are all on the message. You need to communicate a lot about keeping the message clear. One of the new challenges I would like to point out that maybe arose with the era of social media is, I believe, the challenge of, I could call it the politics of sound bites. So both NGOs and policymakers, they really realize that people nowadays have short attention spans, that very often their engagement is measured through simply sharing, clicking, liking. And so very often these messages are condensed to just simple sound bites of maybe 1 minute or less. You can see it where I did a lot of advocacy work in the European Parliament, where in the plenary, people have an opportunity most of the time. The members of the European Parliament speak only for 1 minute. And they often use this 1 minute to just kind of create sound bites for their own Instagram or YouTube accounts. So what is the challenge for NGOs here is to also hold them accountable. So we want more than just sound bites, and we want them to follow through the words that they say. So when they stand for something, we want more than just bragging about introducing a topic, but rather let's see the real change and real impact that these people are creating in the world. When you are part of a global NGO, of course, one of the main challenges and experiences I want to share is this incredible power of social media in bringing people together. So very often, I found myself surrounded by new colleagues, people who have started working or doing an internship, whether in my organization or some other that we work closely together with. And you ask them, how did you learn about us? How come you share our values? And they just say, I found a link on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. And it's incredible how it brings people together. At the same time, I'm guessing one of the major issues we have to deal with, and this is maybe quite a known one, is this question of echo chamber. So social media brings people together who share similar views. At the same time, we must make sure that we go outside our bubble and that we meet people who also have opposing views to us, and that we can establish a true dialogue and communication with them.
Thank you, Mislav. Matteo and Nisreen, I see you both nodding, listening to Mislav, and I'd like to start with you, Nisreen. Maybe you can tell us actually how you find a balance between what we just listened to Mislav. Of course, there's this attention span, but then also the need to focus on content and not to forget the content. Although maybe we just have these one hashtag or 140 characters. How do you find the balance of, finding a way of communicating it successfully via social media, but also having the depth in the content? How do you do it?
Thank you so much for this question. And as Mislav and Matteo, they just mentioned, and as I mentioned before, it's not easy to choose the right content, to choose the right people that you want to gather. At the end, if I'm gonna symbolize it in a way, symbolization, like you need to deliver a message. For example, if we're now having a speech, if you're talking in a room with 5 people, you need to deliver a message. You need to choose the right keywords. You need to understand your audience. This is the first thing anyone in the public speaking, they teach you. You need to understand your audience, to have a research about your audience background. This is easy if you are in a room with 5, 10, 20, 100 people. However, you are on social media platform where you are exposed to all over the world. In fact, indeed, you cannot understand the people's audience. You cannot know their backgrounds because there is a lot of variety. So you need to focus on what message you need to deliver at what time as well, and which day of the week, and the time of the message that you want to announce, in which occasion, what's happening all over the world. You cannot separate yourself. At the end, for example, I can give you a very clear example. Here in Lebanon, we are a women empowerment organization. It was very hard for us in the last 2 years to deliver the message that is focusing on women empowerment, women inclusion, and the diversity, while the people don't know, they are suffering getting their own fuel to go to the work on daily basis, they are suffering to get their own basics, their own standards. We didn't have safety. So it was a challenge for us. What to announce on our social media platform? We cannot separate ourselves from our community. So you need to stay connected to your community in a way. You need to stay supporting your community challenges and needs. You need to support your own mission, to keep it on. You cannot forget it. So it was really tricky about the content, how to develop the message, and the timing as well of the message, of the announcement. Like, for example, if you are planning for a campaign for a month, and you're in a very risky country like Lebanon, where you cannot guarantee what's going to happen between today and tomorrow, you need to adapt. Adaptation is very important here. Sometimes, as a social media plan, it should be changed as per the situation, as per the surrounding, the world situation, the country's situation. Let's talk about individual, organization, country, and world. This is what you want to tackle. You want to talk about individual work? Yes. You want to send the organization message? Yes. You need to respect the country's situation? Yes. And you need to respect the world that you are living in. So here comes a challenge. So usually from a personal experience and organization experience, for example, at LLWB, when you want to deliver something, we sit a lot, we talk a lot. We involve a lot of people when we want to do like a big campaign or we want to announce something. Many people on the table from diversity, from different backgrounds, from different perspectives will bring a very inclusive approach, which leads to inclusive content. We cannot rely only on management, marketing coordinator. This works in a very smooth world, in a very smooth situation. For us in Lebanon, it doesn't work. We need to hear, like sometimes I call the team, what do you think about this idea? It's just I want to hear a different perspective. Not because I'm not sure about the idea, but because we need a lot of people to be involved in the solution. For me, and as Mislav and Matteo said, at the end, you are trying to do an impact. You are trying to do a pressure, for example. You are trying to develop a policy. How you reach a policy development? Let's go on the normal way. How people or government or parliament reach to a point to develop a law or a policy. They start with a problem, right? So our work as a social society, civil society organization to shed the light on the problem. It doesn't end here. We need to suggest solutions, inclusive solutions. We need to advocacy. We need to bring people all around to get the support needed towards this solution. This will assure the pressure on the government. You reach to a point, you force the people on board or the people and the decision makers, you need to solve this issue. But if you miss any step on your way, you're not going to develop the right policy. The right policy should solve the original issue. And this can be easily lost on your way. So that's why it takes what? To point out the problem, to develop the right inclusive solution, not to only think about your small circle, about your bigger circle, the bigger circle, and then to develop the right way, and then to bring the right people on your way. One person, and we faced it a lot in Lebanon, a lot of problems we didn't lead to a right solution. And one of them is the demonstration that happened in Lebanon. Why? Because it was lost on all the way. Whether the solution was lost, whether they brought wrong people around the table to support the initiative. And then we didn't end up with developing the right policy. So that's basically.
Thank you, Nisreen. Thank you very much. Matteo, when you were listening now to the Nisreen's words, of course, circling and making this bigger to find a solution of a bigger crowd, of course, also knowing the audience, what would you like to add? And maybe you can share with us, what is your experience in finding the right combination of a big crowd to support and, of course, to present it to policymakers? What is your key for success in that regard?
There were a lot of interesting points that has been raised so far. I'd like to point out a couple of things. First of all, I strongly agree with what has been said. And it's also very important nowadays, who is the messenger? Especially since we work specifically with young people, and there is a sort of natural tendency of young people to not wanting to follow the footsteps of their parents. And that's what we see, for example, the fact that they are on TikTok, I don't understand TikTok. I have no idea what it is, but young people are over there. And we need to be able to understand that also the messenger is extremely important if you want to advocate towards somebody. So maybe most of the time we need to take that into consideration. And also something else that you were saying before, I think that's, okay, I'm very strong on going deep and trying to understand really things, but do we need that amount of depth in 99% of our interactions, or just a slogan, or just very short sound bites are what is needed most of the times? People, as we said, maybe the span of attention is actually decreasing, as we said, because we are bombarded by these different sort of inputs. But I don't think that what we need is that. What we need is some bites, as we said, and memes or these sort of things that are much more strong in terms of providing a messages to the mass because this is what we want. We want our point of views to be raised among like big groups. And also like was very strongly that everything starts with the community, you know, like the interaction, the very social essence that is part of our human beings. And also to add on that point, I have my notebook that is full of like a lot of underlined things right now. And also to add to what Nisreen was saying is that like I strongly believe that like, yes, policy making should be starting with a problem, but also like it needs to be starting with the concept that there is no neutral policy. You know, like each policy will have an impact on somebody, and like positive or negative as well. So like we need to take that into consideration, that like everybody has some sort of issue, or like some sort of small parts of the solution. So like try to include as many possible diverse stakeholders into the process of defining what is the issue, and like to see what are their perspectives in order to come up with a policy that like might not be the best policy in the world to solve that issue, but like it is a policy that like will be accepted by the people. Because like we can devise everything, but like if it is not accepted by the mass, like it will be very hard that to be functional. We've seen that many times in which like a government has tried to implement a policy that wasn't accepted by a sound policy, that wasn't felt as something that the people should be doing. And we've seen that during the pandemic, you know, like with the vaccines and like everything that was said around that topic. So like there is a lot of interesting points that have been raised so far. Maybe one of the most interesting change in the last years has been the reduction of the distance between policymakers, like in general institutions, and the people. You know, like we can see that on Twitter or in general on social media. You know, I can send a message to anybody, sort of. And like I do not expect to receive an answer all the time, but like this is a chance. And you know, we can interact between like different people that we might not ever have the chance to do it. And like also going, you know, like a good segue was about the echo chambers. We have been speaking a lot about the perils and the potential of social media and what's not. You know, like democratization is certainly like optimistic view of what can happen through technology, and this is something, you know, it's happening. But at the same time, echo chambers like can give way to what is not the real perspective, of what's going on the ground, but it's more connected with like just repeating the message over and over until like it becomes true. So like it's also like a big thing to keep in mind is the power of persuasion and the power of words that like can create a reality that is not the reality we all experience. This is my point on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to dive into that again. When we talk about the echo chamber points that Matteo just raised, also with the reduction of the distance to the policymakers, you think this is a chance that we are closer to the decision makers now on the digital landscape? And what experience can you share with us also, of course, concerning the topic of the echo chambers, widening these echo chambers?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's an experience that I believe all of us face who are trying to engage with policymakers. And it's often something that can even be scary. You realize sometimes that the gap between people who share opposing views is getting stronger and stronger. And I'm talking about, let's say, democratic societies where you expect dialogue to be fostered and nurtured and something positive, but rather people approach each other with strong prejudice. But when it comes to the closeness with policymakers, let me tell you a little story or experience that we have, and that kind of tries to paint the picture of how my organization, World Youth Alliance, has understood this idea of the possibility to spread awareness about an important issue through something that's very much a social media-based campaign. So every year, 21st of March is a symbolic day where we want to spread awareness and celebrate people who have Down syndrome. And the symbolism is in the date itself, because Down syndrome is a condition that's caused by the trisomy on the 21st chromosome pair. And so for this year, and for this date, every year, there are different kinds of campaigns on spreading awareness about people and children who have this condition. And one of the important things there is that there exists still a lot of prejudice. So couples who learn that they might have a child with Down syndrome are immediately drawn to the idea of aborting the child. They're afraid of having the child. People don't understand what it is like to live with a person with Down syndrome. Of course, there are challenges, but it's the situation in reality for most parents who have such children, they will tell you, is much better than people imagine. And of course, there is the question of prejudice that such people have, and opportunities that persons with Down syndrome have in society, whether it comes to education, to work, to have an appropriate kind of living. And so one of the campaigns that we have participated in and kind of brought to the European Parliament specifically is this campaign of wearing mismatched socks. So I have just 2 socks here to demonstrate the idea. And the idea is you take a photo with a pair of mismatched socks, and it is symbolic on multiple levels. So in one way, it shows that differences aren't really important, or differences can actually be beautiful. So there's nothing wrong in wearing socks of 2 colors or different patterns on your feet. Another point is that persons with Down syndrome often have problem in matching patterns. So it's them who often unintentionally end up wearing mismatched socks. But the broader point is that we want to share awareness about such people and the issues that they face. And so this is a very, very easy way to target decision makers, because it's actually fun for a lot of them. They get to take a photo, they get to publish some short statement about their support for such people, but the reach can be huge. And so we had, especially around the years 2016 or so, strong hashtags and the Rock Your Socks Challenge. So invited people to share photos with their socks and tag other friends. And we did the same for decision makers. So even now, if you just Google European Parliament, Socks Challenge, Down syndrome, and so on, you will find quite a few members of the European Parliament who participated in this challenge. And still to this day, many people, it is a way to just celebrate this World Down Syndrome Day. So it's a social media campaign that was mostly aimed at raising awareness, but the advocacy aspect comes later. So once you raise awareness, of course, you want to stay focused, and that's my answer to your question. You want to stay focused and push for your message further. So we don't want to just raise awareness. We also want to improve the lives of those people, and we want to improve the funding for research about the condition itself, and how we can medically help the people who have Down syndrome, but who in reality are just another part of society that enriches us.
Thank you, Mislav, and also, of course, for breaking it down, this example to our digital solution to the table here. And I think it's a good question also to ask you. Does that add on? You know, since you have been wearing these socks, it's a very strong visual statement, so much stronger than just a hashtag, and so much stronger than, of course, when we look into the social media, since it's on the plate and in depth. Do we need more of such ideas and strategies to really have a successful strategy? Because all the decision makers, they are on Instagram, they are on Twitter, and they need content. They need this creating footage, they need taking photos, and of course spreading the messages. So what is your opinion on that? What is your advice, maybe from your perspective? What is a tool that our audience can learn from to find successful solutions also for their campaigns to be just more than one hashtag, in fact?
If this question is meant for me, then my answer will be, well, the key is still always the message. So I'm happy that I find this example to be a successful way of combining the message with an easy to show a strong visual image that can be combined with hashtags and challenges and so on. But the key is always still in the message. So the creative part, I think, comes afterwards. I would say my word to NGOs would be, think, reflect about what you stand for, about what are the major issues in your community or in the global world today, but then stay on topic and find creative ways on how to express it. And of course, social media needs to be taken into account, and ways to spreading the message that are specifically adopted for social media are crucial in today's age.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mislav. Nisreen, can you share with us, what is your take on that?
Yes, I had something to mention about this very important point. Thank you so much, Mislav. Mislav tackled a lot of interesting points. It's about visualization and creativity at the same time. Sometimes really you need to be creative in the way you are transferring a message. And about visualization, unfortunately, the people nowadays likes to see more than read. So if you deliver them a big text or big paragraph, they don't read. If you deliver just a very beautiful picture or very attractive picture, they got attracted to it, or a video even. So people like to watch and to see more than to read. So this is 100% was very helping in the recent period all over the world. For example, let's tackle Corona. I'm not going to talk about Lebanon and the vulnerable people and who cannot like get their basic standards. If you visualize definitely a house with the new standards of living, it's different than talking about it. So people will get like more supporting your target or your goal or your effort. Let's talk about Corona. What helped people taking Corona very serious in the last 2 years? Visualizing the hospitals, visualizing the people on the ground, visualizing the catastrophe that can happen out of Corona, the numbers of death, the numbers of people entering the hospital, the way they announced it all over the social media. It helped people from all over the world to understand the serious issue behind Corona. Let's imagine there is no social media and you are in this pandemic. Or let's imagine the message was not well transferred or highlighting the key points of the Corona's catastrophe in a very wrong way. What would happen? And this is what happened, by the way, in different countries. In many countries of the world, they didn't announce about Corona, and they were not like have access to the internet. Maybe not all over the world have access to the internet, unfortunately. So the effect of the pandemic was different from different countries. Why? Because of the social media. Either it was not even transferred because of no access to the internet, or it was not transferred well in the way it should be. So that's why people had no awareness towards the pandemic and they didn't deal with it. So definitely visualizing, the message that you want to show is very important. And sometimes I cannot really disconnect myself from my country. Sometimes you need to be tough, especially when you are dealing with the government, especially when you are dealing with people who you don't trust, who you need them to do more effort, who they lack, maybe sometimes from your side they lack responsibility. So you need those maybe videos that announce that what people are suffering in a very harsh way to go and to be delivered to the decision makers. Otherwise, they won't do any single move. And we have noticed, and it's proven in Lebanon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to come in with a different angle now to Matteo. I'll come back to you now. Matteo, you are also engaged in the Tech Soup Connect, a non-profit that advocates and supports digital transformations in NGOs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What are the struggles when you talk to NGOs concerning digitalization? What are the debates that you are having over and over and over again? Because I assume you are a big fan of digitalization, but of course there are others who are not as big as a fan as you are. So what are the debates that you are having over and over again?
Thank you very much, Kati. That's something I'm always speaking about. So I can definitely go on that. So just as a concept, Tech Soup Connected, it's a community of volunteers who try to bridge non-profit with the technologies that are available right now. And whenever I speak with a non-profit organization about what is available over there, the first issue, the first challenge that they ask me is we do not have time. So we do not have time. It's a non-issue to me most of the time, because it's through technology, through the various software that are available to you, you can actually save a lot of time. For example, nowadays, I'm very trying to automate a lot of the very boring processes that are part of a non-profit organization. For example, all the subscription journey of new members of Europiamo, it's automated, meaning that a lot of different steps that I had to do myself or somebody else had to do, it's completely cut down. And we are speaking about hours and hours of work, not each day, but throughout the year. So we do not have time. It is a non-issue. The second point is that we do not have the competencies. And this is much more realistic as an issue, meaning some of the non-profits I've been speaking about with, they lack the understanding of how to use certain software that are out there right now. But this where it comes, the volunteer community. There is tons of people that are working in very high tech companies that are very willing to help non-profit organizations. Like nowadays, like people are looking for meaning in their lives. Like we are at the point in which like having a job and like providing for itself, it's not anymore something that like gives meaning to everybody. So like whenever like there is a chance and like you don't have the competences, try to look to do all this many communities that are out there that are providing support to non-profit organization in any sort of aspect. The third common concern that like I've been heard about is like we do not know how to use further those softwares, and this is also something that like it's realistic. And like at a certain point, like they're worried that like they might be losing some connections with their community if they start to be more virtual, more digital in certain extent. Like we need to strongly remember that like a human is still a human. Like it might change the surrounding around us, but like our social essence is something that will always be there, and we'll need to be nurturing that and like try to replicate in a certain way the interaction that are possible through virtual community, also through physical community, also in the virtual realm. Of course, like you need to adapt some ways, like processes and the way you do things, but this is completely doable. We've seen that very well during the pandemic. Lots of things have changed, and we had to adapt. And like it's not a fact of just like shutting down, because like we care about what we do. Non-profit organizations are following something that is the impact. Like we do this because we believe in what we're doing, and we believe that like we want to change the things around us. And like we have the responsibility to follow what's going on and to try to find the most effective way to do it. Otherwise, like we're not doing our job well. So like we need to reinvent a lot of things. We need to change our approach to a lot of things. But like this is our fundamental responsibility, and like there will be a lot of support for you if you want to embark on a journey in digital transformation. This is my take on this. And like also to add a little bit of a point onto what was being said before, because like I love the conversation, because you guys are giving me a lot of other points of view, and I strongly believe that like we are becoming a society much more concerned about entertainment, and we're becoming more and more funny. Like what Mislav was saying before, like about a campaign that is based on being funny, sort of like, so wearing two different socks. It's something that maybe 100 years ago would have been seen like as not effective. But like nowadays, this is where we're going. We need to remember that entertainment and being funny, it is part of how our society is shaped, and like also at the very high level. So thank you very much for sharing that, because like you made me reflect on this.
Absolutely, there are a lot of points to reflect on, but I'd like to point out now, of course, again, the topic of social media, because even Elon Musk is now planning on creating a satellite network, and we all know the metaverse is around the corner. So maybe now, listening to all of you and hearing from you as experts, what do we need to be prepared when we talk about social media, which is crucial for advocacy work? What is your tip? And of course, what is the key for success? Do we have to be on all platforms that are coming up now and that are planned to be and getting out there? Or do we need to focus a little bit more on several platforms? So how do you approach, for example, the metaverse and all these other social media platforms that are on the rise? Can you share with us your thoughts on that? And of course, how do you stay focused in your work? Mislav, I would like to start with you.
Thank you. Yes, so many new things are around the corner, and I often wonder the same question. So I found some funny clips online when people are trying to explain, for example, Twitter or Facebook to someone from the 90s. Imagine going back to time and explaining them what's the new reality. It's almost impossible. So I don't know if it's easy to predict what the future will bring, but definitely for NGOs, for people who are advocates and passionate about certain issues, they need to stay in touch. And by this I mean they need to be aware of what kind of platforms are out there and where their target audience is. So as Nisreen said, they need to always research the audience, and maybe it's not necessary to be on all platforms, and maybe, you know, TikTok with creating short videos is a very, very specific platform that's not suited for any kind of message. But we need to be aware, as Matteo said, that's where the young people are. And so if you want to really reach someone who is quite young, especially teenagers, this is one way to really be effective in this. So I believe still, you know, the message, the advocacy work, and I really like the Nisreen's point about sometimes even being harsh towards those in power, really, really strongly pressing them. I believe the message is still key. So what we stand for, our values. For my organization, this is the value of human dignity, always trying to affirm the intrinsic value of each person. But then social media as a great tool, and you're right, the power is incredible. As soon as Elon Musk tweets something, we have stocks and prices going up or down, whatever he says, and this goes like immediately. The effects are seen in minutes. So the power is incredible. The masses of people are there, and they can be mobilized for important issues. But the values are irreplaceable. So what NGOs stand for, the messages they're promoting, that's crucial. And social media will always be a really important kind of reality, but it's still a tool. It's a tool for us to approach each other.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mislav. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Nisreen and Matteo, what is your word on that when we look into the future, or when we try to? Nisreen?
We're going to be lost definitely with the many platforms, because we expect like every day to have a platform. But what is a platform exactly, or social media platform? It's a window. You can sit in a house with 2 windows, and you can sit in a house with 100 windows. And your voice definitely will be heard widely if you have 100 windows, more than 2 windows. However, as organization, again, back to the message, back to the standards, back to the ethics. Definitely, every platform was built to reach an audience. There are priorities of audiences. Like TikTok was to reach, was built at a time, at a very crucial time, to reach a very specific audience. And it's gonna definitely be to go wider, if I want to say it this way. And Instagram thing, and Twitter thing, and every platform will add a feature. Maybe you don't accept this platform 3 years ago, but this platform developed itself, and after adding this feature, you are now accepting this platform. So basically, you need always to keep track of all the platforms happening around. And basically, you can do just a simple checklist. My organization, this is what I want to target. This is the way that I want my message to be delivered. A checklist, 1, 2, 3, 4. This platform is matching what? 10% of my checklist, maybe I don't go for it. This platform is matching 80% of my checklist, I go for it. I'll be present this. Definitely, you're gonna miss something on your way, and that's really okay. Definitely, if you want to reach everywhere, if you want to reach everyone, you should be everywhere. But sometimes being everywhere will decrease the meaning of your message, and now you need to prioritize what you want exactly. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
That's okay to lose something
Thank you,
your way. So this is basically my point in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Nisreen. Last but not least, Matteo, what is your short answer to that?
Super short answer. I mean, like, we need to be aware of what's out there for sure. And you know, because like there is a lot of possibilities. This is what I always say. Of course, like it needs to be adapted to who you are and like what you're doing in your context a lot. But also, like, you know, being on all the platforms is impossible. What I would suggest is 2 things. So being aware of what's out there, try different things, and as possible, as much as possible, like try to empower your member to be your ambassadors, like of a slightly different variation of your message. You know, like again, during the pandemic, we've seen the growth and death of a lot of different tools. Like, for example, Clubhouse at a certain point was the most important platform to be for a week. It was just a week, you know, like, and like, so like, I don't need to learn how to use Clubhouse. Somebody else can be doing that. And like, if it's already there. So like, I'm on my side, like we should be aware of what's out there. and like empower our members, like especially the younger one, to be able to be an advocate of your message on those platforms. This is my 2 seconds on that.
Very interesting. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nisreen. Thank you, Mislav. Thank you, Matteo, for joining us for this digital saloon. I hope to see and to speak to you soon again, and to continue, of course, with the topic of social media effect on the public relations. And ladies and gentlemen, we do have Iman El-Akbarji with us. She's a 23-year-old youth and gender equality advocate from Morocco, Casablanca. She's the founder of Concealed Narratives, a local youth-led initiative using digital advocacy to empower women and girls in Morocco. Iman, the floor is now all yours for a little keynote.
So, hello everyone, good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Iman and I'm from Morocco. Maybe I can share more about social media effect on public relations on NGOs, if that's possible. Or maybe you want me to start with my personal experience?
Yes, that would be lovely to hear from you. What do you think about the effect social media has on public relations of NGOs? And of course, please share also your personal experiences as well. Thank you.
Katie. So I think PR and social media are both based on communication, but social media with its real-time messaging can amplify impact, basically, allowing PR to be stronger. Contents published via news releases or emails on and other PR-related means can live now longer and spread faster thanks to the help of social media. And it has allowed public relations to reach a much larger audience. Previously, PR was just targeted at specific individuals, such as investors and business partners, etc. But nowadays, social media has caused this target group to expand, basically, and to include all persons vital to the success of a specific organization. So it is public relation nowadays is also more friendly to all stakeholders, resulting in a new area of marketing and helping donors, for example, other types of organizations to be more warm, inviting, and approachable, regardless of their type or serious nature. As for my personal experience with Concealed Narratives, Concealed Narratives was born in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic after winning the Global Feminist Pitch, which was a competition by a German foundation called Heinrich Böll, and they were looking to fund 9 projects on feminist resistance and resilience on social media within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when I started Concealed Narratives, it was a group that operated 100% online. So we used digital advocacy and social media, as well as humor and memes, as a way to empower and impact and raise awareness around the women's and girls' issues in Morocco. We just started physical activities a few months ago, but digital advocacy is still our main technique and strategy. So it has allowed us to create and develop spaces where young people's voices are heard without judgment, without stigma, without discrimination. Platforms also allow youth to be included in all stages of program and policy development, from the planning stage to the monitoring and evaluation stage. We also have, it also allows a diverse that includes young engagement and the point of view voices from marginalized populations, where they can have access to opportunities, mentoring, training, and order to effectively understand the specific context. And finally, where the power is shared between and among stakeholders, so that young people are now partners and leaders themselves, rather than just beneficiaries.
So with us today is also Zara Dirani, a 28-year-old Lebanese feminist activist and journalist. And she likes to talk to us about how social media changed the advocacy landscape and created online advocacy, of course, concerning your NGO, the female young feminist collective Zara. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katie, for having me and having female at this salon. Female is a feminist collective that rely on online campaigning against discriminatory norms and policies. We work with women and girls to eliminate injustice through building a young feminist movement. We rely on social media and on the online advocacy to advocate and build campaigns, that change the patriarchal society in Lebanon. And let me just share some numbers with you regarding to social media, that like 4.6 billion people use social media, and 424 million new users have come online within the last 12 months. And the average daily time that the users spent on social media is 3 hours. Coming from here, we rely on social media as an innovative tool, especially in the pandemic, and how the rhetorics has changed after the pandemic and the economic crisis that Lebanon has been going through. Social media supports us and our outreach by supporting or by spreading information about our movement, about the feminist movement, about the patriarchal practices that they are already in our society. Social media helps us to promote our dialogue between groups and leaders, and it helps women to create safe spaces online through groups. For example, we have a group of women that created a group on Facebook that its name is How to Become a Mother, or how to become an activist. In this group, they share information, they share invitations and opportunities. Also, we relied on social media for advocacy, especially in the pandemic and the circumstances that Lebanon is going through the e-modalities and spreading the reporting mechanism that girls and women can rely when facing different kind of violence. Also, social media helped us as a feminist activist to expose harassers and practices that the violators are practicing. Also, social media helped us to speak up on sensitive topics that like the offline media couldn't help in spreading it. The social media actually changed the advocacy landscape and created online advocacy through different tools that is innovative, that enabled women to participate in dialogues and issues that are related to their own lives. This is it mainly.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us from Lebanon, and greetings to both of you, Iman and Sarah. Thanks for joining us for our digital salon. I hope to see you soon again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for listening and for watching. Also check out the previous episodes on our YouTube channels or follow along on the social media platforms. If you have comments, please let us know, or if you have questions, please post them or write us an email. And with this being said, I wish you all the best. Stay healthy and stay strong until we meet again. All the best for you. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Nusra Ayari, CEO of the LEAD initiative.
And I'm Jörg Schäfer, founder and CEO Europe. Together,
we thank you for watching the Saloon
and want to ask you to check out our YouTube channel and our website.
Stay tuned and do not hesitate to reach out to us.